Hi everyone, this is Learning with Mr. Q. This video is part of a series on the grade 4 through 5 math FSA types of questions. And so the content may not apply to your grade level, but I'm not focusing on the content. I just want to focus on the types of questions that you might see if you're a 4th grader or 5th grader and you're taking the Florida Standards Assessment for math. And so there's 7 types of questions that you might see. So this is the third one that we're looking at. It's called the matching items. And what you need to do is match the information from each row to the corresponding column. And so let me show you what that looks like. So the question says, fill in the bubbles to match each number to the value of the number rounded to the nearest 10. So we're rounding numbers. So you got to see, well, which are the numbers that we're rounding? And it's always going to be the numbers on the left-hand side. So whatever number they're having you look at in this type of question, it's always going to be on the left-hand side. It's these numbers. And what we're doing is rounding each one to the nearest 10. And so that's where these answer choices are up on the top. They're represented up on the top. So we're looking at the first row. So let's call this row 1. And so we're looking at the number 181. Does it round to 180, 190, or to 200? And so 181 rounds to 180. And so for that row, I only bubble in the bubble A, which is 180. It's right underneath it. You see that right there? And so I leave B and C alone because 181 doesn't round to those numbers if we're rounding to the nearest 10. Then I go to the second row. So let's call that row 2. And I'm looking at 186. Does it round to 180? Or 190 or to 200? Well, it rounds to 190. So we want to stay on the row that we're working on. So you can see I'm putting those arrows to kind of help us visually see the row that we're on. Well, 186 rounded to the nearest 10 is 190. And so I make sure I bubble in E in this case, which is under the 190. But I need to make sure I stay on the same row, okay? And then we look at the last row, row 3, and we're looking at the number 194. And so once I round that to the nearest 10, well, it's not rounding to 180. It's rounding to 190, but I want to make sure I stay in the correct row that I am in. All right, so let's take a look at another one. Same thing, we're still matching items. And the question here is determine whether the number is prime or composite. And so the number that we're identifying as prime or composite is on the left-hand side. So we want to focus on one row at a time. So we start with row 1. 16, is it prime or composite? Well, 16 is composite, so I stay on that row and I go all the way to the end, which is bubble B. And then I go to row 2, and I'm looking at the number 13. And once I figure out if it's prime or composite, I stay on the row, and then I just make sure I bubble in C in this case, because you see C is in the column for prime. And then I go to row 3, which is the number 12. And once I go through my math and I figure out that the answer is composite, I just want to stay on that row, move all the way to the end, and bubble in that one, which we can see it's under, or it's in the column that shows composite, okay? And so you don't want to draw these arrows. I just kind of did that to help you visually see what I was doing, okay? But yeah. So that's how you answer the matching items types of questions. So thank you so much for watching Learning with Mr. Q. I hope this helps.